People, process, tech, innovate with the best. The Community Builders Podcast.
Hey Mo, thanks for jumping on.
Hey, Will, glad and pleasure to be here.
So Mo has been working with Fuller Apartment Homes and Presidio Capital for about 18 months now. His team originally helped us migrate over to AppFolio and moved a lot of the data, about 38 years worth of data into AppFolio, which was quite a task. And now he's helping us build dashboards to display metrics and information to our team across all of our different pieces of technology. And he's really helping us stay proactive when it comes to measuring our business and versus being reactive when issues come up. So Mo, let's hear a little more about yourself and your background.
Great. Happy to be here. And yeah, well, as you stated, we've been working with each other for a little over 18 months. I know we initially got introduced with each other when you guys were looking to migrate from the previous system you guys were using onto AppFolio and kind of combining your property management, asset management, investment management data all together onto one ERP platform. Since then, I know our organization, our relationship has kind of blossomed to adding our new PropStrata offering, which is our visualization and data management tool. A little bit about myself, and as it pertains kind of in technology, I'm a gaucho. Graduated actually in a master's in pharmacology, and then did also I had my undergrad in business economics and accounting, as well as pharmacology. So I have a little bit of a nuanced kind of background on how I got into PropTech. Actually dropped out of medical school, and then went into banking for about a year or so, and was really interested and loved the technology I was working with, and actually went back to UCSB. I snuck into the actual job fair after graduating, and I met this small company in a booth called AppFolio. At that time, Folio only had about 111 employees. I think I was 112 or so. And at that time had less than 50 customers. This is circa 2012. And I was able to join the organization working on kind of the services side, helped in product as well. And at that time, there was no such thing as a solution engineer. And so I was actually one of the main folks that was actually demoing the product, as well as servicing clients, implementations. Yardi, who's the juggernaut kind of down the street, transitioned over them after a couple of years. And then I had an inflection point of an opportunity to be able to stay in tech and work for CBRE and other large companies that I was speaking with at the time, or deep diving kind of in technology. And I've always been a fanatic and love working with different technologies. Specifically, I wanted to get more exposure into machine learning and data science and the analytics space. And so I actually moved up to the Bay Area, worked with high-tech companies like Google Cloud for a number of years, and then started our consulting practice, Balance Asset Solutions. And Balance Asset Solutions is a CPA accounting and technology advisory firm. We're partners with players like AppFolio that are in the space, and we help clients like Fuller migrating from one platform to another, help increasing operational efficiency, leveraging and maximizing the product, and then also establishing kind of standard operating procedures. I've always aspired to build a software product. However, I didn't have the right idea. And so I figured if I started a consulting practice and kind of deep dove into the consulting space, I'd get a lot of exposure and experience working with the different tech providers, working very closely with customers, and driving my intuition to understand kind of where the gaps exist. And so I figured I'd be able to marry my experiences working at companies like Google Cloud, understanding machine learning and AI and data, with the experience that I had working at companies like Yardi and AppFolio, and then the consulting practice. And that's really what bore PropStrata, which is our data visualization product. In other industries, what I've noticed is, if we think about 10, 15 years ago, back in the early 2000s, the migration of most enterprise companies going into the cloud was a huge pivot point in IT. So think about moving from on-premise and legacy databases and products going over now to SaaS and web-based products. And then now in IT or in high tech, we see that there's a significant traction and transition over to now leveraging that data, building data products, agentic AI, machine learning, data science, and analytics. However, there are industries that are still laggard in terms of adopting kind of technology. And one of them is real estate. I always joke that Fax machines today only exist because of insurance companies, real estate, and healthcare.
Yeah.
The PropStrata product is something that's unique to the real estate industry. When we look at other industries, we see tools being used like Tableau and Looker and things of that sort. There's a lot of DIY, do-it-yourself type of products. And we've been approached by a lot of companies on the consulting side that wanted to be able to visualize their data, become more of a data-driven organization. And that's ultimately what our product is there to offer, is to be the first best place to understand your real estate business.
Yeah, that's great. Myself, coming from a sales background at Procore, there were a lot of metrics and dashboards to help drive teams to close deals more quickly and efficiently, and just be a stronger sales rep. And
Mhm.
taking that idea and merging it with property management, especially from the property manager side and the maintenance side, has really given us a lot of insight into where there might be inefficiencies in our business, how different property managers are performing, how our maintenance techs are performing. And it feels like by displaying the right data in front of them, it actually drives their performance and their actions. So, for example, we have a leasing dashboard so we can see how well our property managers are converting leads to, um, moved in tenants, and we can see at what part of the funnel things might be slipping through the cracks. We have a prospect dashboard to see how we're interacting with prospects in regards to average time to first contact a prospect, how many times we're having to follow up with prospects, what lead sources are producing the most high quality leads. And then also with our maintenance techs, we can see work orders. We can see how long it takes to complete work orders across our different employees. We can see how fast our vendors complete work orders. We can see how fast work unit turns are done. We can see what vendors might be slowing down unit turns, what vendors are doing unit turns really quickly. So we can double down on those vendors and hire them more often. So it's just having that granularity into our business is really helping us make decisions that essentially keep our units more occupied and our vacancies as low as possible.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. Let me ask you, are there any have you noticed any particular examples of like behavioral changes? Because as even our team is kind of looking at a lot of these metrics, everything from conversions and unit turns and things of that sort, like all your metrics are lifting since you guys have been using PropStrata. But more qualitatively speaking, is there any particular behaviors that you've seen kind of change internally within the organization that have also kind of materialized and you've noticed those metrics actually changing with those behaviors?
Yeah, one example is just average days to first contact. So our team, we were responding within, a day or half a day when a new guest card came into the system. But now, since those metrics are displayed on a property manager basis by property, those stats have decreased dramatically. And it feels like people are reaching out within an hour or two of when a new guest
Oh,
card comes in. And the great thing about PropStrata is you can actually compare it on a time base. So you can see, all right, for this one property manager, how fast are they responding to prospects this month versus last month? So they can kind of have a comparison of how they're doing and how they're trending. But then they can also compare how well they're doing to other properties in the same month. So they can kind of benchmark themselves against other property managers and see that, oh, I'm responding 30% faster than all the other property managers of the company. Like I'm doing something right. And it's good for us because if we know if, let's just say, random name Joe is responding to prospects faster, us in a leadership role can ask Joe, hey, Joe, what are you doing differently to see these prospects come inbound and reach out to them as quickly as possible? We can learn from him and then train the rest of our team on how to do that more efficiently. Um, so
yeah.
that's just one example.
That's a great example. I remember when we were first kind of initially iterating on the product and talking to your CEO Andy. Like one point that he raised and actually gave us kind of the guiding light or kind of a notion as we were building the product was like kind of the notion of gamification, right? Like, hey, which property managers or which employees are doing really well and are contributing or increasing kind of operational KPIs and metrics, which ones are kind of struggling, how do we kind of cross pollinate and also incentivize folks that are that are struggling to adopt kind of the best practices and the things that the folks that are doing really well are doing. So have you noticed kind of changes in kind of collaboration and folks that are the property managers that are doing really well versus maybe the other folks that are maybe either struggling or maybe whose metrics can be a little bit more productive, if you will.
Yeah, definitely. With the dashboards, we could see, average days it takes to approve an application, the amount of average days it takes for a tenant to make a decision on their if they're going to move in or not, the approval rates, and people that are doing this quickly and efficiently. Like we can just go straight to them and be like, "Hey, what are you doing to have your approval rate be so much higher than the rest of the team? Like, what's been your secret sauce?" And then we can share that with everybody else. So it's been great. It's kind of like if you're on a sales team at a tech company and someone has a really high close rate for their opportunities in their accounts, we can actually, spotlight, showcase that person, have them do a training with the team. And it's like, hey, let's go through your process. Well, how are you running your demos, your discovery calls? What are you doing differently to convert your leads into buyers? And same goes with our maintenance techs even too. We notice that some maintenance techs are doing work orders, really quickly, and we've been able to average less than we're able to complete work orders on average in less than a day with our
Oh,
internal
wow.
staff. And the way we've done that is by people who can do it quickly. We ask them, "Hey, what are you doing differently?" And we'll ask Jesse, and Jesse will say, "Oh, I load up my golf cart with
Mhm.
all of my material." Well, first he looks at all of his work orders in AppFolio. He categorizes them for what he needs to do on each work order, what tools he needs, where they are on the property, and then he can load up his golf cart and then in one trip knock out 10 work orders within a couple hours. And then him sharing that with the rest of the team and everybody kind of realized, hey, we could streamline our process too. And instead of going back and forth to the maintenance room, we can just load
Maintenance
everything
class.
up at once and knock them out. So it's just nice to know who's doing things in an efficient way so that we can train the rest of the team on their techniques.
Yeah, no, it's a beautiful story. One of the AppFolio is an amazing product. Being an operations executive like yourself, like one of the challenges and also one of the reasons that we had built PropStrata was how do you sift through the noise and understand like, hey, what KPIs, what metrics, and like what areas to kind of focus on. And I'm sure this is
Mhm.
something that also your investors will kind of appreciate is that you have like the engine of your business, how it's being run. And that's kind of AppFolio for you, right? Which is, where you're entering the maintenance requests, entering the technician notes, things of that sort, the accounting, AP, AR, running your financials. However, PropStrat is meant to be kind of that dashboard and that gauge, like similar to like when you get like that check engine light on your car, right? And understanding like, hey, what is the health and being able to have kind of metrics or information that's kind of flashing and being brought to your attention of like where to kind of focus on things. And so, what's been kind of your love to hear kind of your experience on like being able to kind of drive and like efficiently dive into kind of operational areas of challenge or issues that were maybe much more difficult to kind of surface up with just kind of sleuthing around or jumping into kind of the ERP database and running a bunch of different reports and things of that sort.
Yeah, one report we really like on your dashboard is how many units do we have that are vacant and unrented, right? Because if a unit's vacant and it's unrented, that's just a unit sitting there and we're losing money every day. But just knowing that, that's just a reactive process where it's like, okay, why are these units all vacant and unrented? And then we have to kind of work backwards and figure out like where are we failing in that process to run a unit. But if we have your data and we have those check engine lights that turn on,
Hmm.
we can see issues in our leasing process before that vacant unrented unit happens. So that's we don't want our engine to blow up on the highway. We want to know like if there's if something's wrong, if the oil is low, or if there's an issue that we can fix proactively and be
Right.
preventive about. I guess when you first built this platform, what sort of things did you have in mind to in regards to that? Because that's kind of our example, but yeah, curious what else you're seeing in the industry.
Yeah, yeah. So it's interesting because when when I had approached you guys about this product that we were building, even as we work with other customers, I usually sit down and we go through kind of this interview-esque type of process of like, hey, what do you think or fathom is your unit turn like average? How many days do you think it takes for you guys to actually turn over a unit? Do you know how long it takes for you guys on average, or like what your conversion rate looks like from a prospect or guest card all the way down to and actually being a tenant, or even something as trivial or that may seem as trivial of the difference of time between an application received and then a decision being made of either being approved, denied, or approved with some certain requirements like a cosigner or a guarantor and things of that sort. And so what I've seen is as we're talking about a lot of different property and asset and fund managers is that a lot of folks have anecdotal data or assumptions on like where those metrics are. However, they're making these assumptions based on kind of qualitative assessment rather than looking at the actual what the quantitative metrics and the data is actually telling them. And so you can't optimize what you're not measuring, right? And you can't further optimize those measurements without kind of benchmarking where you are today and then going from there and figuring out kind of all the input and the activity and the work that goes into that particular metric. And unit turn is a great example, right? Because a tenant moves out, leasing needs to start advertising on that available unit. Ideally, it's going to be pegged at a date when the unit would be fully turned over. Maintenance crews have to be assigned where they're going and turning over the unit and doing whatever maintenance and whatever renovations that are needed to be done on the unit. Then you have accounting also that needs to prepare the move out accounting statement, do the disposition, and things like states and like California require to get those refunds out to the tenants within 3 weeks, or potentially they can be entitled to up to 3x the actual security deposit. And so there's all these kind of different moving parts, and each business unit or each department should have some level of metrics on time frame associated with being able to turn these things around. And that's really kind of the promise with PropStrata is that we're giving you that gauge, we're giving you that data, and allowing for you to be able to make objective decisions on where operationally as a business where things need to be kind of tweaked. Um,
Yeah, it kind of go like even like digging that into that even more. We also use for work orders. It's nice to know if we look at all of our techs, it's like a load balance, right?
that's right.
If one tech has twice as many work orders as another tech, we can sub in a tech to help with another property in the area. Because if we notice that one tech has too many work orders and their average time to complete a work order is like slowly increasing, then we know that, hey, this person is stretched thin. We have to bring in some help. And it's a really nice way to just kind of manage our workloads and like load balance everyone across the team.
Yeah, right, right. Using that data to kind of tell you, right, about that. And the thing is, especially that example you gave, I remember in February or so when we first had put together our mocked up iteration of the product and presenting to you guys as team. I recall Andy making a comment about one of your properties or technicians that was having an average higher number of days of turning around units and also work orders, and it sounded like he had been asking for help or needed additional staff to help at the property, but maybe may not have voiced it. And kind of that data kind of gives you that confidence that yes, there's probably something here, and there is probably additional help needed here. And of course, the faster that a unit can be turned around, the faster that unit gets occupied. The faster that unit gets occupied, the less of an impact on vacancy loss, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's great. So I guess kind of rewinding back a little bit to the history of PropStrata, do you mind telling us the story
Yeah,
of how did you start this company? Who's your partner? Um,
yeah.
yeah, do you mind giving us that story?
Yeah. So PropStrata we started in April of 2025. So it's been, man, what has it been like 5, 6 months almost? It seems
Going by
seems
quick.
like yeah, it's gone by so fast. And luckily, Will and you guys at the Fuller Apartment Homes, you guys are actually our first customer that was using the product. And actually, it's been an absolute pleasure working with you guys because you guys have been very forward leaning. Open to kind of adopting technology and not dead set in your ways. Like one of the things that I hear in the industry that is it can be repulsive, and you hear it in a lot of other industries also is, hey, we've always done it this way, right?
Yep.
And being
Yep.
in kind of that mindset of like, hey, we've always done things in XYZ fashion, and there's no drive to kind of innovate, and there is no drive to make things better, more streamlined, and not listening to kind of the staff that's doing the work to understand where bottlenecks and things like that can be made a lot more streamlined. And so a lot of times when we were talking to clients prior to building PropStrata, our team, and we would have some companies, clients that would reach out and ask for like, hey, we need better visibility into operations. We have all these ERP products, we have all these technology products, but they're all bespoke in that they don't all integrate with each other in a manner where I can see all that data aggregated, analyze it the way I want. And there's some, maybe there might be some of these larger companies, like some analytics team that's, sitting in a basement somewhere, if you will, sleuthing around in different Excel spreadsheets, and then somebody gets sick and now that spreadsheet is not accurate. Or there can be small issues like a dot or period or zero added in the wrong place, and there's no control to ensure that that information is correct and accurate as it was pulled out from the ERP product or whatever source system. And so that's like ultimately what kind of drove us to kind of build this product. And, kind of leveraging the background that I had in high tech and working at companies like Google, where we use like Looker, and as folks are using building, cloud applications or even applications in generally, and being able to understand things like users and business performance and what have you, and having data engineering teams that can build things like API connectors to their ERP or different products. And then additionally, have an analytics team that can build a visualization tool that can bolt on top of the database and then create these curated views, these dashboards and widgets within these dashboards. The real estate industry is a little bit of a laggard in terms of, the average data engineer is not going to be attracted to work at a real estate company unless it's crazy large. And most real estate companies don't have the budget to build and have the staff and the right talent to be able to build like a data analytics product. And that's kind of the void and the gap that we saw in the market. And we spoke with plenty of companies like yourself, and probably about another 24 companies leading into 2025. And that was something that we constantly heard from executives, operational leaders like yourself, is that, hey, we have these great products and tooling and stuff, but how do I sift through the noise, understand where to optimize operations, where we should be focusing on things, and most importantly, how do we objectively gauge what staff members, property managers, maintenance, operations, accounting folks are doing really well and efficient at their work, and how do we capture that proficiency and have that shared across the organization. So we started in about April 2025. Today we have a couple of customers, including yourselves being the first. We are going to be going to the conference next week, where we will be doing a lot of demos, and that's kind of like actually our big launch point at the conference next year. My partner is actually another gaucho that I went to UCSB with, Uche, and he started a handful of other startups in the fintech space and came from the Bay Area, and has a ton of experience working with like VCs and things of that sort, and getting these type of products off the ground, and specifically in the data side of the house, like analytics and data engineering type of products and whatnot. And so my industry experience and background, especially working in kind of the consulting world and being in the space for almost 15 years, married with his data engineering and analytics expertise, is what made our kind of our match, very, very attractive. And yeah, so
Do you remember where you met Uche?
man, I probably on DP
Somewhere in Isla
somewhere.
Vista. Yeah.
Probably on DP
Nice.
somewhere at
That's awesome.
Halloween in 2008.
Yeah. I'm a fellow gaucho as well, so definitely. I get it. I get it. Great. So it sounds like you started BAS. You were a consultant, just getting in the weeds with property management companies, helping them with their software, with data migration, with training, streamlining their operations, making them more efficient with their technology, helping with accounting. And you saw this niche
Mhm.
where it was like, hey, all of these companies have so much data in their accounting software and in their property management software, but there's no way for them to really see it and to be able to clearly make business decisions based off of the data. And you've built these dashboards, which are awesome. What I'm curious about is, where do you see PropStrata going over the next 3 to 5 years, from being this data visualization software to incorporating some of that machine learning and AI that you have experience in?
Yeah, great question. So traditionally, in most organizations, when you think about data and analytics, it's usually siloed in a very small group of folks within an organization that have the ability of building these dashboards, widgets, and doing this analytical work. And the main bottleneck that is a cause or is a symptom of that is the know-how. Specifically when you're working with data and you're trying to build visualizations and whatnot, usually you're using like SQL, and you have to have some type of a background in coding in order to be able to properly build out these visualizations. And so one thing that we're working on now is being able to take layman language, like, hey, I want to see the average conversion rate of each property side by side for the past year in terms of conversions of a prospect to a tenant, and being able to use just natural language and having the system automatically convert that to a SQL query and then give you the visualization and allow you to be able to build that dashboard yourself without necessarily having to go to a data engineer or somebody that actually knows kind of code. And so that's something that we're working on now. We actually see it in the industry today, with ChatGPT and Gemini and things like that it's abstracting away a lot of complexity when it comes to programming and allowing kind of non-technical users to be able to use and build technical products without having the knowledge and programming background. And so that's one example of like how we're working with AI right now and kind of building out that feature, which is fairly kind of complex. And so we hypothesize that when you're able to kind of democratize kind of data and the creation of this analysis, it gives it gives the power of being able to demonstrate to the organization where a particular business unit, a business user can kind of focus on and surface up the data without having to kind of rely on somebody else that has a technical know-how to kind of build that. So that's one example. Another Will, I know you asked this kind of in the past, is like, hey, what are the benchmark or industry standards on particular metrics? And how do we fare up as a company to those particular benchmarks? Now, there are some metrics that there is some studies and data out there on how long it should optimal vacancy rate, for example. You want to keep occupancy at around like 95, 96%, things like
Mhm.
that. But when we think more granularly of like, hey, what is a healthy conversion rate from prospect to tenant? What is a healthy, unit turn time period? What is a healthy, average cost of a unit turn or a work order? Or, what is a healthy metric of like, operational expenses over the actual income that's being produced by an asset? And we've had a lot of challenges around kind of trying to bubble up what those look like. Now we know we have a really good understanding of kind of best practices and things of that sort, and we can kind of derive what those metrics should look like ideally. However, there isn't kind of an industry leader, if you will, that does provide what that benchmark data and what a very sound and great property management company looks like in terms of what those KPIs and metrics should be. And that's something that we're also embarking on as we're building out this product. And so, benchmarking, your performance against the standard of the industry and stuff like that, it's something that we are going to be kind of that we are going to be working on next. And then thirdly is forecasting. And when I say forecasting, using AI and machine learning to understand behaviors and inputs of like, hey, what is your occupancy going to look like 6 months from now? Because we have the data associated with like touch points, conversion ratios, how fast folks are initially reaching out to prospects, how long it takes for unit turns and things to happen. Like, hey, can we start forecasting things like what occupancy is going to look like 6 to 9 months from now? Can we forecast what operating cash flow is going to look like from 6 to 9 months from now? And then things of that sort. And that'll
What rents might be in 6 to 9 months.
There we go. There we go.
I mean,
There
that
we
would be
go.
awesome for our new projects. We're currently building a project in Bakersfield, and we just got a project entitled in Santa Barbara. We're building these pro formas. If by looking at rent trends over a certain amount of time and how many guest cards we receive, the rate of price increases or rent increases, that would be really nice if we could see, all right, our pro forma, we're expecting these rents, but like, is the data backing that up in our system to show us
That's
that
right.
things are moving in that direction.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. And we've already, I think now you're starting to get on a weekly basis and the different users, depending on what dashboards and widgets they have access to, is the AI summaries. And we're training those models to be able to further tweak and give additional insight. And I don't know how much you've kind of looked at those before, but like one that I was
Hmm.
looking at is like there was this one comment that the AI made about like your average work order kind of turnover rate and how that also implicates like backlog and things of that sort and staff management.
Hmm.
And that's something that we're going to continue to kind of refine and kind of like fold into forecastability, right? Proformas have always traditionally in this industry been used kind of high level aggregated data and based on very heavy amount of kind of assumptions, if you will. And so if we can actually tighten that to be actually more specific to you as a business, how you guys are operating and what you guys are producing in terms of like how things are being completed and whatnot, and actually have a tighter, actually more accurate performa versus having a lot of fundamental kind of assumptions is something that would be priceless for you and your investors, right?
Definitely. Yeah. And then one other thing I like in your platform too is the alerts widget, which
That's right.
essentially that is kind of like the check engine light, but you can apply it to any metric within your
Mhm.
system. Um, so you could get an email alert once there are more than 3 vacant unrented units on a property, right? That's going to be a red flag where it's like, all right, do we have to lower rent here? Do we have to tighten up our leasing process? But you could even jump ahead of it in the process where, if our new guest card count drops below 5 new guest cards a week, then it's like, all right, well, we have to look at our marketing sources. Uh,
Right.
are the links actually, taking people to our website? Are these links broken? Are the phone numbers that are listed on Zillow and apartments.com, are they bad phone numbers, or is there a technological break somewhere between with our Zoom phone system? And that's really interesting to me too, because you can catch those issues earlier in the process versus later when it's really costing you money. Yeah.
Proactive versus like retroactive kind of
Hmm.
management of change, right?
Yep. Yeah. So it really feels like we're just scratching the surface. There's a lot of data. Our team has complete visibility into all the dashboards too, and they've been really excited playing around with it. You know, gamifying how they're doing versus other properties and other property managers and other maintenance techs. So it kind of makes it fun for everybody. It's also made it helpful because we're doing an all company on-site next week, and we're
Mm-hmm.
going to be doing a part of it's going to be recognizing our property managers and rewarding them, and we're able to highlight different stats in the platform that we're able to give people shout outs for based off of how fast they the fastest tech to complete work orders, or the
Yeah.
highest conversion rate for a property manager, or the highest occupancy rate for the properties. And it just makes it really easy to give out these rewards and kind of the kudos to our team with having these dashboards right in front of us.
Right, right. Also, incentivizes kind of friendly competition, right? When I was at Google does a lot of research on just team dynamics and what makes teams productive and effective. And
Mhm.
one thing that they've consistently shouted out to is what's called psychological kind of safety, which is like
Mhm.
allowing team members to be critical, be able to bring their actual opinions and their perspectives on what should be either changed or how things should be approached, and that they are within an environment, working within an environment that one appreciates that and also listens to it and potentially
Mhm.
even adopts whatever that change is. And studies show that most employees prefer things like the actual shout outs and giving that kudos of like the folks that are doing really well and will strive to kind of be more efficient or drive activity and behavioral changes to drive that change that the organization is kind of asking for, if you will, versus kind of an actual financial incentive, which is an interesting
Yeah.
interesting
How did Google do that? Was it through dashboards, or was it through just like open
yeah.
forums, or what? Yeah, what was their strategy?
They would do a lot of internal reviews, like employee reviews, if you will, and usually, and they'll use like some software platform that HR that connects with HR and stuff, and they would ask for reviews of folks in that are your peers, your boss, as well as like folks in other business units that interact with you or work with you, and they do this
Okay.
very frequently. And there'd be some like grading schema behind that, and that's what they would eventually use for things like suggestions for promotion or increase in compensation, things of that sort. And what this is meant to provide is a lens on like everybody's perspective of like how you operate or work as an individual, areas of improvement, whether it be in collaboration, accountability, or even competence, and maybe an area that you need to kind of dive into a little bit more, and getting that constant feedback loop and that accountability behind that feedback loop to ensure that you're continuously kind of getting better.
Yeah. That communication and that constant feedback and that openness is so key because
It is.
if you end up, bearing things and holding back, and it's just going to lead to resentment, and it's not going to make you a happy person, and it's going to lead to just,
Sure.
less than optimal working conditions. So it's,
Yeah.
it's like a good
One of
marriage,
the
right? You got to just
It
talk through
is.
everything. You got to talk through it.
It is.
Yeah.
One thing that I've seen in this industry is this industry is notorious in property and asset management is notoriously known for just a revolving door of staff. Like the average controller
Mhm.
slash CFO has a tenure of about 18 months.
Wow.
Leasing staff is like 6 months.
Wow.
Maintenance staff is like closer to like 2 years. And so and a lot of that is I believe is a lot of that is rooted in just a lack of focus and incorporation of your frontline employees into operational changes and things of that sort. You can't be a top-down organization where things get barked from the top or pushed down into the organization without taking into accountability of what is happening at the ground floor, the folks that are dealing directly with your tenants, the folks that are dealing directly with your prospects, folks that are dealing directly with your vendors. And that's where feedback should start and flow up versus the opposite kind of direction. And fostering a culture like that actually truly drives an organizational transformation and change to be more efficient and better. And so that's one thing that we've always really respected with the Fuller team, is that you guys have a very close-knit team, and many of you have been with the organization for some time. You guys have very little to no kind of churn, which has allowed and enabled the organization to kind of continuously become more optimized and become more tech leaning forward, and also just like that continuous dedication to kind of streamlining operations and how you guys do business. So I definitely commend you
Yeah.
guys on that. So
No, we appreciate that. It's I think it really comes down from, Andrew Fuller, our CEO. He's, he could be raising money for the next deal, or he could be at a property troubleshooting a camera on a support line, troubleshooting a single camera on a property. So
right,
he's he's always down to get into the engine room and solve problems and dig into the details. And yeah, I think, just having the curiosity to always be learning, being willing to roll up your sleeves and dig into the details. And at the end of the day, just trying to get stuff done is just the mentality that we have with maintaining the highest level of integrity as well. One thing that's really nice with our team is that we manage everything we build. So we, if there are issues that come up after we build something, we want to be as close to the product as possible so we don't ever make that mistake again.
right,
So even with Andy and I pushing forward new developments, we want to be in the weeds with our cameras, with our door locking system, whatever it might be, because it's just, it's only going to benefit the next project, and it's only going to
that's
make our
right,
investors and our returns better in the future. So that's
right.
where I think we're really unique, where we kind of run the whole gamut, see the whole thing.
Right. And
Yeah.
those scenarios of recognizing where maybe something could have been done differently, like that ROI that you'll get on that next development is significant, right?
Hmm.
Especially as you're developing, change orders are notorious, right? And so that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Yeah. One example, um, is an HVAC unit that doesn't have with a condensate drain.
Mhm.
from the mini split in the wall. If it doesn't have enough slope, the water's not going to drain out. It's going to just, it's going to leak, or there's going to be mildew inside of that unit. So we've had to go into a couple of units at one of our properties and raise those units and increase the slope. But since we've done that enough now, we know that in going into this next project, we will be manually inspecting every single
Every
unit and
single
making sure that slope is great enough to get the water out of the mini
right.
split. So it's just,
No,
you can, it's easy to get stuck into the weeds and of like an issue and like the brand image of troubleshooting that issue. But if you just look at the bigger picture and the greater purpose, it kind of helps pull you out of it and be like, hey, but we're doing this now, but it's going to save us in the future.
it's an investment in
Yeah.
itself, right?
So I mean, you've worked with hundreds, I'm assuming, of different property management companies. Any other perspective that you have on the industry or anything that's, it's just, you're just in such a unique role, as CEO of this company, you see everything. Yeah. What other
Yeah.
perspectives do you have on the property management industry?
Yeah, it's been very interesting seeing the advent and the rollout of companies like OpenAI and ChatGPT and Gemini and all these LLMs. And I think it's very easy to get caught up in the sauce, if you will, of just like AI and the verbiage and just the hype around kind of AI. AI is it's and the machine learning tooling that's available today is not a replacement one for human beings or employees, if you will. And secondarily, it is a tool. It's another tool in your tool chest, just like if you had a bag full of tools. It's another hammer, right? It's not the end all be all, and not something that will solve all your problems, right? And so I think what makes organizations unique and what makes operations team thrive is actually not the tech itself. It's actually the culture and kind of the operational rigor and structure that is in place, and kind of that ownership that individual employees have, and that commitment to continuous innovation, feedback loop, and investment in people and things of that sort. And so I just did a talk yesterday on operational efficiency on a radio show. And so you can have all the tech in the world, but it does not necessarily mean that the business is going to be running more efficiently, more profitably, and that you'll retain your employees and your clients more effectively, and even investors,
Mhm.
right? And so it's AI is just another tool. And so I think a lot of folks, especially in this industry and industries where are not at the forefront and early adopters of newer technologies, if you will, like real estate, there's kind of the misconception of just like, oh, hey, I can just get an AI. I'm going to purchase this AI, or "Hey, what can we do with AI?" And use that as kind of a buffer, if you will, and just like, hey, we're going to use this to kind of solve our problems, or that it's a silver bullet, right? And so it's like, that's not really the case, right? AI is there as a tool, just like the rest of your tool chest. And it's there to really automate mundane tasks, things that are fairly predictable, and honestly provide operators like yourself and your employees with more bandwidth to focus on the things that are differentiated and that drive more impact, versus like small things like following up with prospects, you know what I mean, or following
Mhm.
up on an open work order and things of that sort. And so in that lens, it should be critiqued in that from that kind of perspective and lens, right? So
Yeah. It feels like there's like three pillars. There's tech, which is one. There's the people.
mhm,
If the people aren't trained on how to use the tech, it's going to be meaningless. There's the process behind it.
right,
People, process, tech are the things that we try to focus on. Where we try to
right,
implement the best technology, we're always going to be on the cutting edge of technology. And then we're always trying to refine the process on how we leverage that technology. And then we make
yeah,
sure that we spend a lot of time training our people and making sure they
enabling them,
fully understand it. And it's,
yeah, right,
yeah, I agree though. If you just focus on tech and forget about the process and the people, the
right.
tech's just going to sit there and it's not going to be used effectively,
And
for
you won't
sure.
get that ROI, right?
Yeah.
And it's you always want to start with people and process, right? Once you have
Hmm.
you want to have SOPs and processes and things of that sort, and understand and gauge the effectiveness of that process, and the effectiveness is going to be driven with that technology, right? And the technology is going to give you a feedback loop of like, hey, what areas in your process can you automate and have less personnel involvement in that?
Hmm. Yeah, that's great. What are the biggest mistakes, or what is the biggest mistake you see property management companies making?
I would say so. It's very interesting seeing in the 15 plus years I've been in this industry, like the makeup and how most property management companies have started. For you guys in particular, you guys are completely vertically integrated. You guys build, develop, manage, and also and have investments in those developments as well. Most other property management companies usually have started from, there's a broker that is working on kind of real estate sales and buying selling activity like brokerage services if you will, and maybe there was a lull at some point and they started taking on management of the assets of the clients that they were representing, and that's usually where most management companies have started and then grown over time, right? And things like process dedication to actually building out things like SOPs, having the right people and the right tech in place have usually tend to not be as important until like some snag hits. Getting audited by the Department of Real Estate, they're losing investors or they're losing doors from owners that they're managing assets on behalf, and then and over time. And because they're not able to retain employees, you have this revolving door of like, accounting practices, because every new accounting leader has their own kind of sets of processes on like how they want to adjust, how they want to address doing the accounting and things of that sort. And so not focusing on process, not investing in the right people. And also, nobody gets into real estate because they love accounting or technology, right? It's like at the end of the day, understanding like where your strengths kind of exist, investing in your people, investing in resources outside of the organization to help accelerate time to value, and keeping your employees and your organization focused on the things that truly differentiate you guys, right? And so it's like
Mhm.
even when I look at our internal organization, and we have a lot of experience with technology, working with databases and stuff like that, and it's like we have a Salesforce consultant. We didn't implement our own Salesforce. I've been using Salesforce for almost 20 years at this point. We have plenty of people internally that know it inside and out. But is that good use of our time? It's not. It's
Mhm.
worth the investment to actually have another consultant or another party that actually owns that and can help maintain that, and provide the support to our team versus me being heavily involved in that so I can spend my time talking and working with customers like yourself and helping you guys build value and streamline your operations. Same thing with the implementation that you guys had gone through. Furthermore, kind of optimizing your accounting practices, how you guys are using technology and things of that sort. And so, a lot of organizations are the kind of biggest mistakes that I've seen is kind of, mismanagement of investing in either time, personnel, or resources in areas that are not actually moving the needle in terms of the actual business.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's great. So when it comes to BAS and PropStrata, what's
Mhm.
how do you balance your time and kind of where are you focused these days? Like how do you spend your weeks?
Yeah, great question. So the consulting practice has been around for 9 years at this point. It's matured. I think at this point we have like close to about 30 something odd people. We just hired our first COO or head of operations about 3, 4 months ago. We have our sales leader as well. We have our marketing leader. Ironically, a lot of the services that, or a lot of the things that we do internally, we're now like offering as kind of services to clients. And when I say a lot of things we're doing internally, like one is like marketing and stuff like that. Like Tyler from our marketing team, like he does an amazing job. Like our sales team is very lucky and spoiled, and somebody like yourself that came from a previous sales background would probably appreciate this. Our sales team doesn't really do any outbounding, like even to this day. And we've been
Yeah.
around for almost 9 years, so we're still growing at a healthy clip. So the consulting business has matured quite a bit, and that my majority of my time, I would say probably 75, 80% of my time now is focused on working with customers like yourself on this new offering, the data visualization tool PropStrata that we're working on, and kind of working with Uche and the engineering team. The interesting thing with like data analytic products is that it is somewhat intertwined with consulting to an extent, right? It's like, hey, I can provide you the data, I can give you what you need, but the question always after that is going to be, so what? What do I
Mhm.
do with this data, right? And that's like the question that I'm trying to get better at ensuring that we're arming our folks like yourself with being able to understand that, I see a world, 5 years out, 5 to 10 years out, where, a product like PropStrata is going to get smarter and smarter, understand what things need to be done, and then actually have curated task lists, for example, that get automatically sent to each individual. Like, user, if you will, and like, hey, focus. This is what you're doing today because of X, Y, and Z. It's going to drive this particular metric. You know what I mean? And then kind of like benchmarking their performance and essentially like a self-learning optimized system that's giving you business recommendations and actions and tasks that automatically get implemented and assigned to folks in order to be able to increase the operational efficiency and ultimately the profitability of the organization.
Yeah. It sounds like you could potentially, if you were to consult or, start consulting with a company, you could first use PropStrata to see all of their data. And then from that data, you can curate a plan on how, hey, if
That's
we
right.
do X, Y, and Z with you, we'll increase your occupancy by this amount, or we'll do this or that. And it kind of, I do see how they can work hand in hand together.
That's right. That's right.
Awesome.
Curious from your perspective, like how, like as an organization and as an enterprise, like how do you guys think about data and kind of the application and the use of that data?
Yeah, it's, so me coming from Procore and having a sales background, data is so important to bring on new customers and also to help manage a team and to find gaps in your sales process to close deals more efficiently. For us at Fuller Apartment Homes, I think the data is really important to help us decide where we want to build new product, what rents we could possibly achieve at these new locations during a certain time frame. And I think the data is also really important to just understand where we're losing money, really, where things aren't optimized, where things might be falling through the cracks. We can, be able to see all of our vendors and how many purchase orders or work orders each vendor has, and understanding if we need to hire people internally to save money to tackle those work orders instead of hiring out specific issues. For example, in Bakersfield, it's our HVAC work orders are seasonal because in the summer everybody's using their air conditioning and we have a lot of issues. And with PropStrata, we were able to see how many HVAC work orders we have and how much we were paying across the different properties and make it a business decision if either we want to train our team more regarding HVACs or hire a specialist to be our HVAC specialist across all of our properties. So it's really just driving, like not it feels like without the data, without being able to see the data, you're driving a car and you're looking at the rearview mirror and all you can see is behind you. We wanted to see what's in front of us at a high level so that we can dig into the weeds and make those impactful business decisions.
It's a great use case. Great
Yeah.
use case.
So
Is that like a
yeah.
culture? Is it a cultural change also that is that something that you guys have been kind of slowly kind of pushing and kind of internally of seeing like kind of a cultural change on being kind of more data driven?
Yeah, I think so. Like we were talking about before, we want to invest in our employees a lot. We
Mm-hmm.
want to train them. We want to, most of our employees stick with us for the long term. Our VP of accounting and HR has been with us for 17 years. Our head of property management's been here for 10 years. Our maintenance supervisor has been here for 10 or 11 years. So we know that if we train our people and we invest in them, they're going to stick around. And having the data to do that and to enable them to be the best employee possible not only helps us, but it helps them grow their career. And it's just a win-win because if we have happy employees, then we're going to have happy customers, and if our customers are happy, then that's going to make our employees happy. So
Right.
it's just a very symbiotic relationship.
Cool.
Yeah. But yeah, no, this was a good chat. I appreciate you jumping on. I know you're a busy guy. Is there anything else you want to let our team know, or yeah, before we sign off here?
No, I think I'm grateful that we got connected with honestly with Fuller Apartment Homes and your broader organization. Honestly, you've also made us become a better organization, and also you've definitely helped provide deeper provide especially me like a deeper understanding on kind of operations, and it's been very unique working with a company like like Fuller, where you guys are completely like when I say completely, very vertically integrated from like building, management, asset management, investment management, mortgage, like everything. And it's a very unique experience that we've been able to kind of go through. And so thank you.
Well, thank you, Mo. You're a great partner and you've helped us a lot. We've changed a lot over the past 2 years, but you've been right by our side helping us navigate it. And, we appreciate working with you and having you as a partner.
Of course. Looking forward to where we build from here.
Awesome. Sounds good, Mo. Thanks for your time. We'll talk soon.
Alrighty.
All right. See ya.